Welcome to Building the Future. I'm your host, Kevin Horick. You can check out the radio version of the show every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern on WDJY 99.1 in Atlanta. We also air on a podcasting network in Los Angeles called the 405 Media. There's a TV version of the show that airs on KMVT 15 in Silicon Valley at 8 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday nights. Both versions of the show air in other states. For these show times, plus past episodes, please visit the show's website at buildingthefutureshow.com. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com. Join me at the 10th Annual Media Excellence Awards on January 18th in Beverly Hills, California. The attendees and I will be celebrating innovation and leadership in technology and entertainment. There are 20 award categories with 1,000 nominees. These awards honor those who are creating groundbreaking technology to better our lives and celebrate the hard work, determination, and brilliance in the leadership within the companies which create the new world we live in today. I will be recording nominees and winners at the awards. For tickets and more information, go to MediaXAwards.com. Welcome back to the show. Today we have Ryan Soscia. He's the founder and CEO at JADO. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kevin. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. I think, you're kind of, what you guys are doing is kind of timely with what's kind of happening in the news. But maybe before we kind of get into JADO and what you guys are doing with that, let's get to know you a little bit better and start off with where you grew up.
Yeah. So originally I grew up in a small town in the southeast corner of Connecticut called Stonington, and from there I ended up transferring to a private school in DC, and finished up high school out there before moving out to California. So yeah.
Nice. Okay, so you went to university, correct?
Yeah, I was studying computer science with bioinformatics specialization and neuroscience at the University of California, San Diego.
Okay.
But that being said, I ended up leaving after partway through my sophomore year.
Okay, and why did you decide to leave?
Yeah, so I was I got a job with a local VC, and I just started, getting hands-on experience with various startups. And during one of my meetings with these folks, I also pitched to them an idea for a company, which, is now JADO. And after I kind of just told them about my background, building apps and that sort of stuff, and what my, intentions long-term were, the response I got was like, I believe in you. I believe in your company. When can you start? And that's when I really just started to jump into it. But it wasn't until things got really timely for us that I actually just chose to, pursue this stuff full-time with JADO, and in addition to receiving advisory, from these folks, and just thought it was a different type of education that I couldn't necessarily get in the future. So, I was willing to take the risk right now. So,
no, I think that's great. So, walk us kind of through how you came up with the idea of JADO and what exactly is it?
Yeah, totally. So JADO is a public benefit corporation, and we built anonymous reporting platform that is end-to-end encrypted in order to connect mutual victims of repeat sexual offenders to lawyers who would be wanting to take on those cases. And structurally, they're cases that are both worth more and easier to prove. So we're really, creating a mechanism that incentivizes justice for victims of the most underreported crimes in our country. And going back to like how this even, came into my head, it really all stems into the summer before my senior year in high school. I went back to Connecticut and had a 2-month internship at a local family friend's law firm. And really over the course of this time, it was, 2 months, I learned from A to Z, what goes into these types of cases, really the grounds that individuals have to pursue action against, an offender in the terms of civil litigation. And toward the end of this internship, I was just hanging out with a friend, and the guy was going to play, D1 football in college, and I had repeated a year in high school, so, my friends in Connecticut were a year ahead of me as I was going to my senior year. But this kid just out of the blue broke down and told me that his CrossFit trainer had molested him, and I immediately, offered him like whatever help I could, and
Sure.
was able to apply some of this knowledge I gained from the legal internship to my friend's situation. You know, the one thing I told him was, you know, you should do something about this, because more often than not, you know, these people will just be left in the world, you know, just and probably do to other people. So the day went on. It was, again, the same day my friend told me that this even happened. And we went to a graduation party later that night. And my friend, you know, spoke up about what happened to him. Come to find out that there were about 10 other kids that had the same exact experience with the same exact guy. And,
Wow.
you know, that was a scenario where, like, looking in, it's like, how did this happen? You know, these kids, like, all of us had grown up together, played football, played lacrosse together, and
Sure.
how did they not speak about it? But the second, you know, my friend brought this to light and we found, you know, the true scope of the damage there, there was just, you know, no shame, no stigma, just like complete support for the people that this happened to. And they unanimously, you know, pursued action against this individual. So it was just really an eye-opening experience. And really, I just felt like the tools that that exist today, they're not really helping survivors in the real world. So we thought that, you know, we could build something that not only does this for, you know, one instance, like, you know, the instance with my friends, but could actually reach like billions of people, you know, through technology. So.
Sure. No, I think it's great what you're doing, and it's just kind of oddly timely that, you know, all the stuff that's kind of happening in Hollywood right now, and a bunch of people are kind of getting busted for this kind of stuff finally, and, you know, a bunch of people are kind of coming forward. And, you know, I have a close family member that went through this, and I've known kind of other people that have had, you know, these experiences in their past. And, you know, so I really wanted to have you on the show to, you know, help people that maybe are scared to come forward, actually, you know, maybe use kind of what you guys are doing, or to actually, you know, help their own lives, right?
Yeah, totally.
So,
It's
go ahead,
something
sorry.
that it's something that, like, I was just talking to a former marketing director at Perkins Coie, or I can't even pronounce their name wrong, but they're right, but it's a big law firm. And we were having this really interesting conversation where, you know, we talked about how this stuff has just been happening, you know, for pretty much all of human history. And we're really at a tipping point, it feels, where, you know, this stuff has been, you know, unveiled a little bit, and people today more, you know, willing to speak up and willing to pursue action. It's like this stuff has just been going on for generations, but today more so than ever, you know, people are saying no, like this stuff can't be, you know, as rooted as it is in our society. And I think that's where, you know, Jado can come into play too, as someone who could, like, you know, funnel a lot of this like social anxiety through something that, you know, results in direct action and that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I think it's, you know, amazing what you guys are doing. But walk me and the listener through kind of how do people kind of use your platform to actually, you know, kind of deal with this? Totally.
So essentially, when you download the Jado app, we're actually not even live yet. We do have clients though already. It's going to be live probably in about a week or so.
Okay, so by the time this airs, it'll be live.
Yeah. So pretty much when, you know, you experience or something, you witness something, you can access the Jado app after you download it, and you can file a report against the offender. And with these types of crimes, they're very unique because in 90% of cases, you know, offenders are repeat offenders. And it's also extremely likely to be the case that the people who would be reporting these offenders actually know the offenders by name. So through Jado, people are able to legitimately list, you know, the person who wronged them, or, you know, if they witness something, they could report this too. And through our system, we basically created a solution that prevents the individual from defaming the offender, and it also preserves the identity of the individual. So if you were, you know, involved in a situation with, you know, for example, Bill Cosby, you could report him through Jado, and you'll find out that there are others who've also reported this individual and what firm they're working with to pursue action against him. So
I see.
In other words, it's really a black box. Like when reports are in our system, even under a subpoena, they would withstand that because we've created a system that is only accessible by the users, and therefore, the users, when they're pursuing justice, their keys to their encrypted files with these lawyers, and no one else has access to them. So that's something that really just didn't exist, and it's pretty new technology, but that's pretty much, what we've built for survivors of sexual assault, rape, and harassment.
No, I think that's really great. But then how do you guys deal with the kind of, because I'm sure it's come up where it's actually like somebody claims something happened that actually didn't happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. And my default response to that is that, these types of crimes are reported 1 out of 10 times. And, through our technology, like, we identify repeat offenders 70% faster than anyone. But they're also a type of crime that is reported at lower rates than all of these other types of crimes. So by default, it is, naturally it's not very likely that we will have false reports. But even under the case that we do, they're basically reports that come in, and, it's in a matching system that doesn't defamate and doesn't identify, the individual who reported it. So if it's going to move forward into like a litigation, type of output, that's going to be something where the individual, is dealing with lawyers and is signing their name, saying that they're accountable for all of this stuff. So, we're not the ones who like determine how this is going to play out in court. We're just the ones who connect the dots for individuals to, build up the momentum to even be in that situation, and have the power to and capacity to pursue action against an offender. So that's kind of how we deal with false reporting now, but definitely, in the future, there's potential for different levers that would prevent false reporting. So,
sure, no, that makes sense. And at the end of the day, it's when if I reported something and if it's false, say, then you match me with a lawyer, the lawyer's going to be like, you have no case, or it didn't happen, or like you were just mad or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to like make it like a joke, but I just want to stress the point that like you guys aren't necessarily like, there's a vetting process that you basically with the lawyer, right?
Yeah, totally. And lawyers, when they take on these types of cases, they're naturally considered high risk, high reward for them.
Fair.
But through our technology, we're de-risking them, and we're also making them worth more. So lawyers are still going to have to conduct, their natural vetting process. And frankly, like, firms can't afford to be taking on cases that, are faulty or that they can't prove in court. So yeah, they're going to have the same kind of vetting process through our system. It's just, pre-vetting, we're just connecting dots early on so they can have, an idea of what the true scope of damages really is and that sort of thing. Right now, lawyers have no capacity to find other individuals who, might be connected to a defendant that they're going against on behalf of victims of these types of crimes. So, through our technology, we want to connect lawyers to all those people. Like, it's more often than not that offenders are repeat offenders. So, if everyone just used JADO as a reporting tool, we could really, eradicate sexual assault as our mission states in our governing documents.
No, I think it's great, man. So walk me through and the listener through some of the other features, because it's more. You guys have quite a bit going on. I'm just kind of actually looking at the features page of your site now, and even since we last chatted, it seems like you updated and added some stuff. So what other features do you kind of offer in the app?
Yeah, so we basically have, created a public ledger that doesn't reveal the identifying info of individuals on the map. So, like, the one thing that we're trying to really showcase through JADO is that, you could see all these reports mapped out as pins on a map, but if you were to do a filter on this map and, you wanted to see how many of these are really, repeat offenders, like, that's something that we offer by default as a service. Like, we want people to see that direct connection and, realize that taking action against an offender, like, could genuinely prevent this person from, continuing to wreak havoc in the community. So that's one of the features. You have the ability to really just filtered by all sorts of, types of crimes that are reported in our system. Again, we focus on sexual assault, rape, and harassment, but in addition to that, you could find legal resources, you could find medical resources, and we're trying to really provide like a full stack solution for survivors. So to the extent that we can find, different facets, we could add to our platform that would be beneficial to survivors, going through this type of situation. We'll definitely be adding them like as we move forward. But first up is launching, and then second up is we're going to make this available on web as well. So we're excited about all of that, but that's kind of where we're at now.
No, I think that's really great. When you say just for the survivors part of things, I'm assuming like you're gonna have a listing or directory of maybe like therapists or other kind of professionals. Is that what you mean by that, or what?
Yeah.
What are you kind of looking to do long term for them?
Totally. So it's actually interesting. We originally just collected all the data from RAIN, which is a big organization in the space, and they have resources listed nationally. And we we collected all of those and have that already structured in a database for our platform. But definitely, we'd like to also work with therapists who would be able to basically be listed as resources in our platform, and people could see if they're good and if the community validates them, and maybe even like what type of insurance provider they accept, because like these things are often expensive too, and whatever way we could make it convenient for individuals to like access therapists in their area, it's not necessarily an easy thing, and I know from experience. So
Sure.
That's definitely something that I think would be kind of under the umbrella of different medical resources we have. That sort of thing.
No, I think that's great. So I want to dive a little bit deeper, and you kind of covered it earlier about kind of how does the lawyer use the app on their side?
Yeah, it's a good question, and really it was dictated a lot when we were trying to make sure that we were doing everything we could to avoid breaking any professional conduct, ethic, responsibilities with respect to lawyers. But so when lawyers are listed in our system, they're basically able to collect different prospects that have reported in JADO and are interested in pursuing legal action against the offender they named. And what they're doing, the survivors at that point, they're able to find different resources in their area, and we'll check off like which firm they want to proceed through. And lawyers on the other end are having a reciprocal platform that basically allows them to access these new leads and accept or deny, as well as see the connectivity to the repeat offender and other individuals looking to pursue action against that offender as well. So we're really giving them something that isn't, being force-fed to people. It's more like survivors, who want to pursue action will. Others, you don't have to. But the ones who do, lawyers are going to be getting this thing that says, okay, accept, deny, and then they'll move on to have like a consultation and figure out like if it's the type of case, that they're going to take on. But it's interesting because some of our current lawyer clients too, they're basically trying to use our platform for existing clients as well, because, as I mentioned previously, lawyers currently have zero capacity to look at someone they're currently, prosecuting, a defendant, and ask the question of, okay, like, do we know anyone else who's connected to this? Like, they don't even know how to answer that question for themselves. So through JADO, it could be, a source of new, clients to represent, but it also could be something that enriches their current client data set, if you will.
Sure.
In that it creates the cases that are like worth more and easier to prove for them. And in doing so, it's helping more people sooner. So that's kind of the angle that we're taking with lawyers currently. So
no, I think that's really great. And so you mentioned the web and you kind of covered the apps, but you're launching Android and iOS and the web. Is that fair to say?
Well, so we're launching Android, iOS first. Web will be coming out shortly after. The tech that we use enabled us to really do a lot of that faster than most companies. So Web is kind of like a package deal with respect to the backend we've built for, our technology so far. That being said, it's like we care mostly about security. So like we're trying to make sure that whatever we release on the web is really as good as it is on mobile. And mobile has a lot of, special privileges being as it's mobile. Everyone has a device, and their device can carry keys that are like uniquely associated with them. So the web is more challenging, but we're still, working on that too. So it should be available like on mobile and web sooner than later, but mobile definitely first. The other thing.
No, that makes sense. But keep going. Sorry.
I wanted to kind of circle back to the lawyer stuff too, and just kind of say that like the lawyer-client confidentiality agreements that are, social contracts, written on paper with lawyers that, a lot of clients have with them. It's interesting because really through the technology we've really built like another degree of lawyer-client confidentiality over the web. Like there's no scenario where clients dealing with their lawyers will have their data as secure as we do in our system, to the extent where even under a subpoena, like their communications will not be exposed. So it's really unique in that, we're providing a solution as a crime reporting tool, and then to lawyers, on the flip side. And it's good for them because it's really just like, creating a new standard of what lawyer-client confidentiality could even look like.
Interesting.
So in my opinion, I think it's pretty interesting stuff.
Sure. No, that's actually quite fascinating. And then, just that gets me thinking, because you could kind of potentially branch out into other industries down the road if you chose to then, right? Or other verticals for the legal industry.
Totally.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm curious, though, to maybe dive a little bit deeper into how you actually got this built, because you mentioned you kind of were talking to some people, you were still in school, you obviously worked in the legal space for a while, but how did you kind of fund the actual development of this thing, to actually get this version 1 kind of live and online?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, it's been an interesting experience. Again, like when I first started this thing, I didn't know anything about corporations. I was just starting to learn about startups, and once I really honed in on that skill set, the rest kind of just happened. Once I took the leap and was just working on this constantly. But we were lucky enough to get some awesome investors involved. We currently have multiple current as well as Fortune 500 execs invested in our company. So, a mix of family, friends, and kind of pitching the right angels who particularly invest in our space. Like that's been our strategy to date. And we haven't raised a ton of money, but, just enough to get us to the first level where we get this thing up, we get, a few paying clients, and then we can move on to, additional rounds of financing. But again, it's been crazy because, just with the media and everything, it's definitely been something that has a lot of attention these days. So, like we're actively, raising more funds now, and it's really a never-ending game. But that being said, it's pretty incredible because like we have paying lawyer clients already, and we haven't even launched yet. So
wow.
It's definitely been, pretty exciting.
So, no, I think that's great. And my next question to you was going to be, how do you monetize? So you charge the lawyer then?
Yeah, so we essentially are, as a business, we profit from attorney marketing fees and successful case outcomes. And the typical law firm, spends about 2% of its money on marketing. And if you think of what that could mean, it could be, Facebook marketing in their general area. And it's really, we found that to be highly ineffective. And, through our technology, if they have a specific defendant in mind, or if they have, clients ready or, need new clients, really through our technology, we could give them exactly what they need. And they have no ability, to get that otherwise. So that's kind of how we've been positioning ourselves now. And, we've kind of just been reaching out to as many lawyers as we can. And it's been a pretty, successful run so far. We just need to, scale those efforts out, as we keep moving forward. So
yeah, I think that's great. And I get asked this question kind of a lot, and it really has nothing to do with your platform, but how did you guys go about actually getting paying client or customer, well, lawyers in this case, but their customers or clients, before you even launched the product?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Really, we know the value of what we're providing to firms, and
Sure.
there's a lot of me that kind of has to keep that reserved and not be as upfront with like what we could be charging. So it often feels like we left a lot of money on the table. But that being said, we're thinking long term rather than short term. So we actually offered them a hugely discounted rate and said, for the first 50, this is what we're offering. After the first 50, it's 10x's for each additional client. And we really just wanted the barrier of entry to be as low as we could, as we targeted, mission-aligned law firms who would want to be listed on our platform. And that's been kind of our go-to strategy for now. I mean, it's worked pretty well. But yeah, like we kind of just, knew what kind of checks we were asking for with respect to, what their typical marketing spend is, and really just positioned ourselves as something that is fairly low risk and potentially huge reward.
Sure.
And, the law industry is it's pretty interesting because there's really not of crazy technology in that space. And,
yeah, fair.
If some technology company is going to reach out to some firm that, still loves sending paper checks, they're going to be excited if we could do anything that could, positively affect their bottom line, as well as just, in general, streamline their processes. So that's kind of what we're promising now. And it's been nice, too, because they haven't been very eager, demanding for this platform. Like, it's coming, we're going as fast as we can, and, we're just continuing this engine that, is growing by the day. So it's good.
I think that's great. And I think that's actually really good advice, right? Because you gave them a discounted rate. I think that's probably it. You almost make it so it's extremely hard for them to say no. They also probably feel like they're helping you build the platform, right? Because they have to be giving you feedback.
Totally.
And then they feel like they're like almost loyal because they feel like they're actually part of, the team, right? Even though they're paying something. That's been my experience, and it sounds like you've experienced that as well.
Yeah. One of the first attorneys we signed was a firm that's local to San Diego, and we had just won some social innovation awards at the University of San Diego. And
nice. Congrats, man. That's great.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And then so after we won that stuff, we hit up these attorneys who were also alumni from the school, and it was just, we felt like brotherhood, in that sense. Sure. When we initially signed them. So it's been interesting, but definitely like we've been emphasizing how, this could help make a local impact as well as national. And like, we really think that we have something special and aren't afraid to, reach out to firms even cold to let them know what we have. Like, there have definitely been, one or two who've just been like flat out, no, thank you. But, in general, it's something where people often thank us more than that, even, just for reaching out and putting this on their radar. So definitely,
Sure.
Excited to ramp things up there.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And to your point a few minutes ago, like the legal space is kind of behind in tech, in any kind of technology. And I don't even mean it mean, it's just, that's kind of the reality, right? And so when somebody comes to them with a piece of technology that can save them time and money, plus bring them new clients, it's kind of a no-brainer for them, right? They're at least able to try it out.
Yeah, exactly. And, we charge such a small amount up front that, like, it's not like we're going to be thriving because of this, but once we prove that our tech really works with them, that's when things, start to escalate and contracts get bigger. So it's definitely kind of like planting a lot of seeds and, doing everything we can to like make our tech work, as effectively as we can. And once that value is shown, we don't think there would be any hesitation when we send, different contracts come next year. So, yeah.
Sure. No, I think that's great. So I think just kind of from the screenshots that you guys have online, the app looks really nice. Like, it's a kind of a beautiful looking app.
I appreciate it.
How big is the actual team working on the different platforms?
Yeah, so our team is kind of in transition mode right now. We're hovering between 4 and 6 folks who are involved,
Okay.
like mostly part-time, but a few full-time folks. As I mentioned to you, I think on a previous call, we had some friends who were working with us from Berkeley. They had just graduated, and were just two geniuses, really, and both are now currently pursuing advanced degrees. One in physics, the other a master's in design. And yeah, we really just had like these folks involved for the summer, and then they went off to pursue their degrees. But we still have them part time, so it's nice. But really, we're trying to get our business running as it needs to be, raise some additional capital, and convert some folks who do want to be full time but can't quite afford to not work with other companies as well, into being full time. That's ultimately our goal, but one day at a time.
No, why I bring that up, because I remember that conversation, and the point that you kind of got there that I think is kind of really educational is, like, you build version 1, like, say, from the design side, right? You got Android, you got the look of iOS done, and maybe the web. And like once the team's kind of coding, yeah, you might need little things and design elements from the designer or like somebody on the design side, but they don't really, like, sometimes you don't need them full time for a while, and until you maybe want version 2 or kind of a new little section. So you could potentially have, like, it sounds like you guys are doing, where you have these people full time where maybe they need to put in kind of part-time hours a few times a month instead of being kind of full time, especially to get things kind of ramped up at the beginning. And I think, that to me, I think a lot of people think that they need all these people full time, and when in a lot of cases you don't, right?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And we've also found too that like there are actually a lot of developers within big companies that are looking for a side project. So
Totally.
like we're, definitely interested in that sort of talent as well. And if things work out, like they could be, future potential employees. So it's really nice, being a small startup and scrappy. That being said, like definitely looking forward to moving into just having, the full-time folks who are just dedicating, time and energy, like as much as they can to all of our problems and things that we're solving. But then the other thing I wanted to mention too is like early on, we went through various development groups and different folks who were involved, as contractors and that sort of thing. And in the beginning, we were trying to figure out how much it would cost to build this thing. And
Sure.
The quotes we were getting were, hovering in the realm of like $250K. And that's a lot to stomach as like someone who's, hasn't raised, too much capital, at least at that time, to raise. And it really felt like kind of just, too high of a barrier for me to even jump through. And kind of just let that settle for a little bit, and then realize that, let's check out this outsourcing thing. Like, let's see what other options are so we have leverage against that. And we ultimately ended up reducing our costs to like 1% to 2% of the initial quote. And, we didn't finish our contracts with those folks, but, we took what was working, we moved on with other people, we kind of just piecemealed it together over time. And, today our product's pretty nice and robust, and it's really the sum of like all these different, stepping stones that we went through. But had we, looked at that giant bill and, been turned down by that initially, like we probably wouldn't be here today. It was really just like reconstructing, our realities to say, okay, well, like, how could we do this faster and cheaper? And like, what are the costs and benefits, in doing so through this group or, with these folks, and kind of just went in that direction as much as we could. So,
no,
yeah.
I appreciate you saying that, because there's a lot of apps that people use every day that were basically started off the same way, as like they proof a concept, it outsourced, they might rebuild it with like a team internally at some point, but it's a shocking amount of kind of at least version 1 or maybe multiple versions where it's kind of offshored, or parts of it are offshored, just because they need to get a a proof of concept. And you're right. Like if coming up with, thousands of dollars or maybe 10 grand, or I don't know. And I don't really want to know what you spent, but coming up with thousands of dollars or even like 10 grand hypothetically is obviously a lot easier than a $250,000.
Yeah. And frankly, like who wants to be burning cash? Like I learned a lot, and I feel like to some extent, like we learned on, other folks' dollars, but really we did so in like the most effective way we could. We reduced costs to near nothing. We, lived out of, poor living conditions, just different things that you could do to just like de-risk things, make it super cheap. And like, there's a lot of upside and not too much downside, when things go the wrong way, if they do. But that being said, like, I think things are, working for us like well. And when we started, I could have never predicted, the psychology of our country today. Like things are just very, very ready for JADO, I'd say. Like there's a lot of people who know this stuff is a problem now, and it's, become just super public. But at the end of the day, I just feel like we have something that looks like the best solution to all of this. And, we didn't just start it yesterday. We have been working on this for quite a while now. So
Sure. So that kind of leads me into my next question, actually. How long did it take you before you actually kind of started putting this in front of lawyers and other users? Was it like weeks? Was it months? I'm just kind of curious to get like a version that you are actually, kind of getting people to play with and give their feedback.
Yeah. So, well, going back to the cost of development stuff, like today and, every day moving forward from today, it is cheaper and easier to build this stuff than ever before. So like, that's one thing that is definitely on, the entrepreneur side. Then to answer your question, like we were able to show mock-ups of what we were building, that looked like the real thing early on to folks who, might be using the real thing at some point. And we were able to solicit feedback simply from designs. It's weird because like typically, you think, oh, I need like this MVP to show this group or let them play around with this thing and, have it feel like an app. But really, you can use technologies like Flinto or Envision, and you can pretty much build like high quality apps that are simply just images strung together. Like, you could build out every view for a simple app you're, have a prototype for, and then you can have people play around with it. You can get feedback and all that sort of stuff. So we did that pretty early on, and we met with some really big law firms who, like, to quote them, they said that this tech would streamline their legal processes and be hugely valuable. And, meeting with some of our closer lawyer friends, we were able to pinpoint like how much value this would really be adding, like what, in an ideal world we'd be able to charge for this. And it was a lot. And, we wanted to create something that was, palatable, but not too much, even though we still recognized how much value this could provide them. So really it just kind of evolved from there with like, again, reducing costs, prototyping, getting feedback from, lawyers that were both in network and, we had some sort of introductions to, and even some cold outreach, kind of just a mix of everything.
No, I think that's great, man. I love that. I am curious though, when you say cold outreach, was that email, was that phone calls, a bit of both, some other kind of through social media, or how did you guys go do that?
All of the above, including Twitter. I feel like Twitter's interesting because it's really just like a flattened level, where you can, reach out to people, tag people and stuff that's relevant to them and, spark up a conversation and, who knows where it leads. There's also this interesting platform that just came out. It's called 21.co. And I saw one of the partners at A16Z speaking about this. They recently rebranded to earn.com. But it's a really interesting platform. They created like their own crypto ecosystem, like on blockchain. And it's really a social network where, you get paid to give advice, or you can pay someone to get advice. And if you don't get the advice, you end up getting, the refunded credits. But it's really just to say, like, you can have a conversation with anyone, if you reach out to them and have something, a specific ask in mind. And a lot of people just don't see the world like that. But if we find some lawyers who look like they're interested in, technology we've built, we'll reach out to them via phone call to their offices. We'll reach out to them via email. And, we don't hear back from everyone, but like if we were going to let 1 or 10 or even 100 of those things that, didn't work out for us stop us from doing what, we need to be doing, again, like we wouldn't be here today. So really it's just a matter of like spewing that stuff, and seeing what results in, additional conversations and like moving forward on those fronts to the extent you can. So yeah, just a lot of kind of hustle in the mix of everything. So.
No, I think that's actually really good advice, because you mentioned earlier, like you've worked in the industry before. Obviously, you have some connections, but you're still kind of, for lack of a better term for it, is cold calling. And by cold calling, I mean kind of through social media, through apps, actually making phone calls, through email, right? Like that's what this stuff kind of takes, right? To be successful or get your platform out there. You need to try all these channels and see what works and doesn't work for what you're trying to do.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, there are some pretty well cited studies that show that like the average amount of time it takes, building a relationship with someone before you can raise capital from them is 6 months. And it's crazy because like a lot of my family or friends who aren't, familiar with the space, it's like, when you're trying to raise money and there are these sort of things that you have to deal with, like different barriers to getting it or to that sort of entry. A lot of folks don't really think super long term like that. And really once you see, how the industry works, you can figure out like what you need to do, to get to that end point. It just takes a lot of like back planning and figuring out like, what's our general strategy and like what really matters to us right now. Like for us, it's product and sales. So that's what, I've been spending most of my time on these days. But yeah.
No, I think that's really good advice, Ryan. And sadly, we're coming to the end of the show. So let's close with mentioning where people can get more information about you guys. And by the time this airs, the apps will be available in both Android and iOS app stores, correct?
Yeah. So yeah, you can check out us on social media. We're pretty much have the same tag everywhere. We use Jado Justice, and you should be able to search that, find our profile. Additionally, you can check us out online. Our website's jado.io, so that's JDOE.io. And yeah, I definitely recommend folks sign up, whether you're a survivor, experienced these types of crimes or witness them, or on the flip side, if you're a lawyer practicing personal injury law, looking to tap into our platform to access new potential clients, definitely recommend you sign up.
Well, Ryan, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
Thanks, man. We'll talk soon. Yeah, bye. Thanks for listening. Please visit the show's website at buildingthefutureshow.com. Also check us out on Facebook at Building the Future Show and follow us on Twitter at Building Show. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com and keep building the future.